That's good stuff, dude.
Where'd it go?
I'm back in the saddle now. Okay, there. Get up. 40. Honey. Honey.
A German magazine calls American businessmen bloodsuckers. A French literary event bashing America is called the ecstasy of hate. You would think that America is the source of evil in the world, but increasingly the European media acts like it is. There's so much negative news about the United States in the European media, it often looks like America is the enemy. Here in France, the French media often looks like an anti-American propaganda machine.
When you think of how many Americans died to save Europe from Nazism, it's very shameful.
American novelist Nidra Poller, who lives in Paris, is talking about what she calls the ingrained hateful anti-Americanism in the French media.
They talk about America as a country of vicious capitalism, indifferent to the welfare of human beings.
They act like enemies of the United States.
Yes, they do act like enemies. I would put their feet to the fire on that. I think it's a big mistake that the Americans haven't done that. If they ever get attacked, they think the Americans will come and help them out. So, they can kick the Americans. They can't kick the Iranians. They're afraid of them.
Well, I worked in Brussels for the Wall Street Journal for almost 5 years, and I saw a consistent pattern of anti-American bias in the press.
Richard Miniter says the media on the continent of Europe is not really free like our media, and it can be dangerous to stray from the conventional wisdom.
And the conventional wisdom set by the intellectual class in Europe is profoundly left-wing and therefore profoundly anti-American.
Les médias français sont...
Respected French journalist and author Yvan Rieffol of the newspaper Le Figaro told CBN News he's been blackballed from French TV because of his pro-American reputation. The anti-Americanism that used to exist only on the political fringes of European society has taken over the middle. When a recent poll showed that most Germans now think the U.S. is more dangerous than Iran, the Berlin bureau chief of the news magazine Der Spiegel took his own nation to task, writing sarcastically, "Anti-Americanism is the wonder drug of German politics. Take a swing at the Yanks and you'll be shooting your way back up to the top of the opinion polls in no time. For us Germans, the Americans are either too fat or too obsessed with exercise, too prudish or too pornographic, too religious or too nihilistic, too isolationist or too imperialistic. Anti-Americanism is hypocrisy at its finest. You can spend your evening catching the latest episode of 24 and then complain about Guantanamo the next morning. Anti-Americanism is called one of the last acceptable prejudices. Andrei Markovits, the author of Uncouth Nation, Why Europe Dislikes America, uses the example of a London dinner party, where if you were to slander, say, the Chinese, it would be considered in such poor taste you would not be invited back.
Yet, no one thinks for 1 second at the equivalent London dinner party constantly talk about Americans as fat, uncultured, idiotic, dumb. Why? And that is what I'm talking about.
Haller says the French media regularly mock America's religious faith.
One of the terrible things about America is that people are religious and believe in God. And this is considered to be a sign of being underdeveloped and simplistic.
A few years ago, the Sunday Herald in Britain was alarmed that President Bush was under the influence of the crackpot TV evangelism that is so peculiar to America. The British Economist magazine has written that to Europeans, religion is the strangest and most disturbing feature about America. They find it extraordinary that 3 times as many Americans believe in the virgin birth as in evolution. Thanks to the internet and television, millions of Americans can now turn to the British media for their news. But a British conservative group has a warning for them about the BBC.
It now has plans to conquer the United States domestic media market. But do you really want Britain's gift to America? On the outside, it may look a good deal. That reassuring English voice, those costume dramas, great natural history programs. But what's the inside story?
The inside story, according to a 25-year BBC veteran and the author of the book, Can We Trust the BBC?, is that the BBC is systematically biased against Christianity in America. The BBC did not offer CBN News a response. Samuel Coates is a spokesman for the group that made the ad.
I think most Americans really greatly underestimate how pervasive the BBC is. It is seen as the leading media outlet in the world.
Some analysts say the European anti-American media machine has already damaged the U.S., by gradually separating America from her allies. Just one example, new French President Nicolas Sarkozy had to tone down his pro-American views or risk losing the French election. Americans have a tradition of not caring much what the rest of the world thinks of them. It might be time to start.
Wow.